What kind of values are you passing down to the next generation? Hi, guys. This is Doug Jessup with another episode of Family Heritage Stories. With me, it's an interesting couple, but I consider them friends. This is the Greenbergs, and so Rich and Carrie. Um, I'm going to start with you, Rich. Okay, we're going to pick on you first. Okay, come to find out that you and I were both raised in the same city in California. Go figure. Where are you from?
I'm from Covina, California.
Josh Almighty. And then I come to find out that we both share an interesting heritage.
We do. I was raised Jewish, had a bar mitzvah, grew up in Southern California, but then at around 18 was introduced to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And after about 5 years, I became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay. I'm not going to let you get off that easy.
Oh.
Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Now,
I still consider myself both Jewish
Yes.
as well as a member of the church, which I know some people see that as a contradiction, but I don't. When you're born Jewish, you're Jewish, and our Jewish heritage and some of the traditions are important to me and something that we try and keep in our family. I had an extra close relationship, probably the most important person growing up, or at least one of them, was my grandmother Rose, who lived in just a mother-in-law house on the same property as my parents. And she would make these Jewish cookies, kamish bread, also known as mandel bread, several times a week. And I still to this day make my version of her recipe with my kids, and we share it with family and friends and neighbors and other traditions that we keep as well. But that's one of the big ones, and that's
tastes really good, just saying. Okay. You know, the cool thing about families and history is these little recipes that get passed down. Okay. So I could kind of guess on some of the ingredients, but I'm not asking for the secret recipe. Okay. But what are some of the things that that make it special?
goodness.
Oh, okay.
I love Doug.
Okay.
There's a lot of love and a lot of just time and effort from Rosie. Would make these cookies several days a week. And so I love to bake. I bake with my kids. I bake all kinds of things. I'll give any recipe out except that one. It's the only one. I'll make you cookies and I'll give it. But you can taste there's chocolate in there. There's cinnamon in there. There's other things in there, but I won't tell you all the spoilers. But you can have as many cookies as you can eat, though.
Oh, don't go there. That could be fun. Okay, now we have a beautiful picture of your grandma Rose on the screen right now. Okay, and what I love is we've got the older couple, but now I see their wedding picture. Where'd they get married?
I don't know for sure. They grew up back east. I think it was Philadelphia, but I'm not positive about that. But that's where my dad was raised, and these are my dad's parents. And so they grew up back east, and then when my parents finished their medical training, they kind of migrated out. They wanted to be around the West Coast in California, and then eventually both sets of their parents, my mom's parents, Marlon Sid, as well as my dad's parents, Rose and Lou, both came out to California to be together with the family. And so it was back east somewhere. I do believe it was Philadelphia. And so they're from that area.
Okay, well, it's a beautiful wedding dress. I love that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Okay, talking about gorgeous and weddings and all that stuff, you've got somebody next to you. You want to introduce this dear lady to us?
Yeah, this is the most important person in my life. This is my best friend and my partner and the person that I'm most passionate about, both sometimes good and bad. We have lots of love, but sometimes some arguments even on the way to the studio today.
Yeah.
Just stress. But this is my wife, Carrie. She's what keeps our family going. We have craziness in our family, all kinds of stuff that happens, and she's the rock that keeps us solid, keeps us afloat, keeps us moving forward. She's the reason that we can do everything that we do together. So.
Okay. Now, I have not prepped them on this one, but when I interview couples, there's a couple things that I love to find out. And sometimes the husband and wife have slightly different versions of the story. So Carrie, Okay.
Ours is very
Yeah, okay, just checking, just checking. Okay, so Carrie, where were you? Where were you born and grown up?
Well, so I was born and mostly grew up in San Jose, California.
Okay.
There's a period of time we lived in Southern California up on the Grapevine
Oh.
in a small town called Pine Mountain Club.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I graduated from Lindbergh High in San Jose, and it's right there in Silicon Valley. And
Okay, now there's this little school, and all us California people know this one, but okay, it's. Amazed that anybody gets any work done because it's got great surfing, really, really close, and it's a school called UC Davis. Okay, from what I understand, a little love bug kind of put you guys together at UC Davis. Number one, what were you studying at UC Davis?
I was studying landscape architecture.
Ah, okay, very cool. And okay, he does not get to answer this question. Okay, just so you know.
not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I want to hear the story of well, first, this is not on any notes, okay? How did you meet?
We met at church at a family home evening activity. So you're away from your families, and so you're in this young single adult ward kind of thing. Ours was actually a student ward.
Mhm.
And so those of us who weren't married came to family night as a group of young people. And the first time we met, he was putting on an activity where we were making Valentine cards for a children's hospital.
Whoa,
So
very cool. Okay, what was he studying at the time? Do you know?
he was doing his med school. He was in his third year of med school.
Wow. Okay, so I'm guessing, did you want to be a pediatrician even back then?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So I've got the story of how you met. Okay. Now I will let Rich answer this one. Okay. And you will see how close he gets. So Rich, you got this cute young lady that you met at at a Relief Society, well, a church meeting, okay?
Yeah.
How did you propose to said young lady?
Well, let's just say our dating story was interesting. She was very, very young looking. Okay. And so
Okay.
I didn't know how old she was. I
Mhm.
was 25 at the time about.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie was actually 20, almost 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm about 5.5 years older, but I didn't know how old she was. And
Okay.
so I asked someone in the ward and they said, well, I don't know how old she is, but here's her phone number. So I called, figure I would just kind of say hi and feel it out. And I didn't realize where she was living at the time. She was living with another person, a mother, and her daughter was a single mom in the ward at the time. And the daughter answered the phone, and I said, is Carrie there? And she said, hold on a second. Mom, is Carrie home? And I said, oh my gosh, she must be 18 and living at home. It's just not good. I thought about not calling her back. Her roommate convinced me, no, you should call and give it back. And so I called back, found out she was almost 21. I said, okay, close enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Went on our first date. We went to a museum, then out to Old Town Sacramento, had dinner. And we went early because I didn't know how long things would take. We went to museum before it closed and then dinner and talked. And driving back home, I dropped her off. Well, we were driving back home and I said, well, it's still early. Do you want to do something else? And she said, well, no, I have homework to do. And I thought, well, and I said, oh my gosh, I thought things were going well.
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped her off for about 7, went to my good friend's house, who was a med student with me. And he said, hey, what are you doing? And he said, I thought you had a date tonight. And I said, it just ended. And he said, well, must have gone well. It's 7:00. Anyway, things progressed. We dated for about a year and a half. I was getting ready to come to Utah to do internship and residency up at University of Utah in Primary Children's. Carrie was still doing a undergraduate degree there in Davis. There was kind of some uncertainty. We loved each other, but there was difference in age and such, and kind of some nerves. And so she really wanted to get married and realized it. I wanted to, but I was still nervous about it, knowing if she was the right person. And so I actually had gone right before graduation on a trip with one of my best friends to Ecuador, kind of as a self-graduation trip. And I called her like every chance I could. And she was like, I thought we weren't going to keep doing this. And then I came home and realized how special she was. I said, will you help me move to Davis. And she said, well, why? And I said, I want to see if things will actually go where they should go. And she said, okay. And so we drove out from California to Utah, moved stuff in my a place that we had rented, a duplex, and it was late at night. We couldn't set up anything. And her uncle said, well, who helped us move, Carrie's going to sleep at our house. Why don't you come sleep on the couch? So I can't sleep on the couch that night. Hadn't prepared anything, hadn't thought about anything. And we just sat up and talked. And it was like 3 a.m. And we were just talking about us and life and everything. And I just was telling her why I loved her and how special she was and naming all the amazing qualities. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, boy, you idiot. Heavenly Father has presented you with the most amazing gift in the whole wide world. What are you waiting for? So at 3 a.m. with no ring, in the living room of a basement apartment in her aunt and uncle's house, I asked her to marry me. And she said, I'm not going to answer you because I'm afraid you're going to change your mind in a few hours in the morning. I said, no, I've made up my mind and I'm going to marry you. And I know your answer is yes. And she said, well, you sleep on it. And I said, I've already decided. So we slept a few hours. We woke up. She looked at me. I said, yes, still the answer is, yeah, I want to marry you. We drove from there to the mall. We couldn't afford anything. So we got like a $50 engagement ring with like a small stone, amethyst stone. And that's how we got engaged.
Okay. Okay, now I got to ask. Again, this is not on the script. Okay. Do you remember, actually, I'm going to ask Carrie this one. Do you remember the first time you met his grandma?
His grandma Rose?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact first time, but I remember the first few times in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So did she give you the recipe or is it just in a minute?
And she would.
By that point, she wasn't baking as much.
Okay.
But he was very good to her and very attentive. At that point, she had some health issues by the time I met her.
Well, there is the phrase, and I've told my daughters this. It's like, okay, a great way to judge a man is how he treats his mom and his grandma.
Other women in the
Other women.
Yep.
Yeah.
I watched.
You passed. Okay. Now, since we're talking about food, a little birdie, and maybe this has to do with landscape architect. I'm just teasing about this, but apparently a little birdie tells me that you don't eat birdies, that you're a vegetarian. How did that come to be?
So I grew up that way. My family didn't eat much meat. And
Oh, really?
probably by the time before I was 10, maybe 8, 9, something like that, my family, other than my older brother, who was about 7 years older than us, stopped eating meat altogether. And so I stopped eating meat just as a function of that, and then grew up that way. And then when I met Carrie and we got serious, I did tell her I really want to raise my kids as vegetarian from a health perspective and lifestyle. And so that's kind of how that came to pass. And Carrie will tell you the story of how she converted to vegetarianism if she wants. Sometimes she wants to tell you.
So I grew up in a family that ate a lot of meat at every meal. And when I left for college, I decided that I was going to cut back and only have meat a couple times a week, just because it felt so heavy. And so that's what I did. And then when Rich and I started dating and he told me he wanted to raise his kids vegetarian, and we were talking at that point when we were talking seriously, I said, that's fine. Just don't expect me to convert like that. I'll cook that way. I'll learn to cook that way, but I won't, do that. I might, cook for myself. I enjoyed cooking meat. And then at some point while we were engaged, we went on a river raft trip with his residency group. And I realized after I got back from that week trip that I had had every meal with him and ate whatever he was eating. So I must have been eating vegetarian the whole time.
Just didn't realize it, yeah?
And just didn't think about it or realize it. Didn't feel hungry. Thought, okay, well, I might as well just try it out. I had planned to try it out at some point. So I decided to just try it out at this time. And then a half hour later, I was craving meat.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the most part pretty much is.
I have been vegetarian on the most part since. There was a period of time I called myself a cheating vegetarian because I had a little bite here.
No. Okay. Now, so you guys get married, and going to medical school, I mean, I've got some friends that I know that've gone to medical school. I mean, that's hard. I mean, that's some tough things, but I don't think that people understand the sacrifices that couples make when one of the partners is in medical school. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, exactly.
Okay. Help me understand how life was when you guys were separated and why and all that kind of stuff.
So when we first got married, we only lived together for about a month or so before I went back to UC Davis for school, and he was doing residency here at the University of Utah. And we just figured that if I went to school here, we would end up killing ourselves on the road, and my program was hard to get into.
Yeah.
And I wanted to finish my program.
Sure.
And so we flew and saw each other about once every 3 or 4 weeks. And that in itself was a sacrifice. We would talk at night and he'd be falling asleep on the phone because he was an overtired resident. He's working many hours. And then about a year and a half later, when I did move here and he was still in med school. Residency, sorry. The weekends and evenings when he just wasn't around because he was on call and working so much, I would just go spend time with some extended family that happened to live in the area. And or like I'd catch myself going to a restaurant by myself or going window shopping by myself just to feel like I wasn't totally alone.
Well, your phone bills must have been huge. Well, yeah, because they used right. I know, exactly. Wow.
Just a kind of big picture, it was important for Carrie and it was important for me that she finish her education.
Yes.
Many people, including religious people, counseled us that we were making a huge mistake by living apart, but we knew it was the right thing for us and that we could withstand it. And so once a month, I would fly out there or she would fly out here and we would get to spend the weekend, mostly just me sleeping, but visiting with each other and spending time and then fly back and then do it again about 3 or 4 weeks later. And it's a sacrifice.
Well, the thing I look at is, and I understand where, people could say, I don't know. On the flip side, the way at least I'm reading this is the fact that you were both encouraging each other's long-term career goals and such. And so from that standpoint, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're both hard fields. So, Rich, you made it through med school. You made it through residency. Okay. Now where are you?
So I finished residency at Primary Children's University of Utah and then decided to do a fellowship, which is extra training, 3 more years in pediatric emergency medicine.
Okay.
And was accepted to do that at the Denver Children's Hospital and University of Colorado Health Sciences. So then we moved out to Denver for 3 years to do that. At the time, Carrie was, actually, our son Zach was born. He was about 3 months old.
Okay. And so just to make it clear, okay, in Denver now, you're done with your education. You're done with your education. You're now together?
We're together in Denver, but I'm not done. I'm doing 3 more years education at the hospital, 11 hours. Okay. And then she has a 3-month-old and living in a city where she has no family and knows no one, which made it challenging.
Okay.
But we
started meeting people.
Yeah. We met a community there that was loving and great. But, she sacrificed and Carrie decided to she worked up until, I think, the day before Zachary was home. And then he came, and then so she put her career on hold. And, we both discussed it, and she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom to raise our children. And that's that. I would love that. That would be great for our family. But, if you really want to continue, we'll figure it out. And she said, no, I want to. And so that was something that we came together, more her decision, but our decision. And then she's stayed true to that. She stayed home and raised our other children and done an amazing job. And she's the main reason why we have 3 special, amazing children.
Okay, now let's talk about the kids. Okay, so you got 3 kids. Zachary is the first one. Is there by chance any significance to his name?
His middle name
His?
is Lewis,
Okay.
and he's named after his great-grandfather, Louis Greenberg.
Which is my dad's dad.
Okay. Very cool. Because see, I love the fact when, and you guys know, you've heard me say this before, but to me, if stories aren't passed down from generation to generation, they're lost and those people are forgotten. And so I love the tradition of having family names passed down. And so I hope that Zach knows the stories,
He does.
and so that's pretty dang cool. So now, second kid.
Samantha Rose.
Samantha Rose. Okay. I think I've heard the name Rose before. Is that one? Okay. And Rose was
my dad's mother. So my mother that I grew up with. I grew up with my grandfather Louis as well, or Louis. He died about when I was 12.
Okay.
But then Rose lived many years after that, and I was very close with Rose. And so always, if we had a daughter, I really wanted to name her after because she was such an important part of my life and so special in my life.
Was your grandmother alive when Rose was born?
When Samantha, no.
Or excuse me, when Samantha was born. Yeah, that's what.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. She knows.
Absolutely not.
She knows. She knows.
She knows.
Samantha.
I believe Rose smiles, probably rolls her eyes, but smiles every time we make, and I make those cookies numerous times over. And I think she smiles that I'm doing it, that I'm teaching my kid, that I'm sharing it with so many people that are important to us, friends, families, neighbors, people we love, strangers. I think she loves that. I think she probably rolls her eyes in heaven going, oh my gosh, you messed it up again, Rich.
Yeah, well.
But
I will tell you.
Rolls her eyes.
I will tell you though. I'm going to just make a little prediction. Fast forward, okay? And I want you to think about this, okay? How old's Rose right now? Samantha Rose.
Oh, Samantha Rose is 21.
Okay. Someday, and maybe someday soon, you guys will become grandparents. Okay? I just love and can picture the idea of you in the kitchen with your granddaughter wearing an apron, and you are teaching her that recipe. And contrary to what you're not telling me, you're going to tell her all the ingredients.
Every
Single one. I'm just saying.
single
And so Gramps is going to help pass down Grandma Rose's.
That's my hope. Both Zachary and Samantha know very well. They've made it several times. They helped me make it. They both could make it on their own. Not as good as Dad.
Wow. Okay.
Well, both.
Okay.
But they could make it on their own, and that's my goal: is to pass that tradition down and other traditions that we have together as a family with our kids, so that they can, pass those down to their children and their children's children, so those beautiful memories stay in the family.
Okay, now we've talked.
Grandchildren.
Oh, no doubt.
Have that.
Well, to me, it's important to know where you come from. I mean, I was raised with the phrase, and maybe it's a Jewish phrase, I have no idea, but remember where you came from was just hammered into when I was a kid. Remember where you come from. So we've talked about Zachary, and we've talked about Samantha. Now, before we talk about number 3, and I hope you don't mind me delving in a little personal on this one, because I know that your faith is extremely important to both of you.
Yeah.
And there's a phrase in my family that says never ignore prompting. And there's a very, very special story, if you're willing to share it, about number 3.
So we felt so after Samantha was born in Denver, we moved back to Utah. I took a job up at Primary Children's in the University of Utah in the ER up at Primary Children's as a assistant professor up at the University of Utah. And so the kids were young. I think Zach was 3, Samantha was a year, something like that. And so it was stressful, new job, new home, getting used to it. But then a few years down the road, we kind of felt more settled, and we felt like there's at least one more for our family. And so we tried, and nothing happened. And that was frustrating because Zach and Sam were conceived fairly typically. And we were like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? It didn't make sense. It was frustrating. It was tough. We had a special neighbor, Grandpa Reed, who lived a few doors down. We adopted each other. He became a grandpa to our family. We'd have dinner together a few days a week and just do things together, take him to the zoo with us if we were taking the kids, whatever. And he kept telling Carrie, there's another daughter in heaven for you. And that was frustrating because we were trying lots of different things and that just kind of poured salt into an open wound. And you would tell specifics. She actually has a sister, but the sister isn't for you. And she's got curly hair and she looks normal, but there's something wrong with her. And so the more he would tell us, the more frustrated Carrie would get because we couldn't get pregnant. And then we tried all the steps of assisted pregnancy all the way up until in vitro and decided not to do in vitro. Then we decided to try and go the route of adoption. And we were chosen for adoption. And then unfortunately, the lady had a miscarriage. And so that was just an emotional roller coaster for us. And then finally, we decided to do foster care. And so we did foster care. And that was a story of its own. But we weren't getting any calls or any placements. And it was really frustrating. So we talked to our trainer and said, look, we've been signed up for months. And we hear that there's such a huge need, but no calls. And she said, oh, your caseworker is not necessarily the most aggressive, let's just say. I would put a call into the supervisor and figure this out for you. Later that day, we got a call about a girl who was up at Primary Children's admitted for what's called failure to thrive, meaning she was too low on her weight and she had had some medical issues, some neglect from the family. She had been admitted 3 times and in a short period of time. And so they needed her to go home with a foster family who could help. Well, Carrie had decided she had her hands full with 2 young kids. And she said, you're medical, but I'm not. We can't handle a medically fragile child. So we told them no medically complex children. Well, this was about not as most medically complex, but a pretty medically complex child. So I told Carrie, I said, well, here's the situation. Carrie said, let's go meet her. And I said, if you go meet her, that's a done
deal. Yeah.
That we're going to go meet her. The next day, Carrie wanted to look at that angel and said, she's coming home with us. And she did. She came home with us and she had a lot of issues. She had a feeding tube in her nose, got fed continuously 24 hours a day, was very small, was developmentally delayed, had all kinds of medical and developmental issues, but she was a pure angel and still is to this day. And then we were blessed 1 year exactly to the date, February 25th, a year later after she came to our home as a foster child, she became officially of Greenberg. And we decided at that point to change her name to make her, she was 2.5 at that time, but developmentally much younger. And, we thought that would be okay and to give her a new start and a new identity. And so we actually decided to change her name to Marla Ray. Marla is my mother's mother, who I was also lived in Southern California, just a few miles away from where I grew up, and I was close to my grandparents, Marla and Sid, and so we named her Marla as her first name, and her middle name was Ray, which is Carrie's middle name, and that's after her grandfather, Grandpa Ray, who is her mom's dad, and he was really a special influence when our kids were young. We called him Hockey Grandpa because I play ice hockey. So I have some hockey sticks at home. And so when he would come to visit us in Denver, Hockey Grandpa would play hockey with Zach when he was little. So that was his nickname for a while, was Hockey Grandpa. And so Marla got her name, Marla Ray, from putting together kind of family.
Okay. Now I'm going to put Carrie on the spot on this one.
Please do.
So you had heard these stories from Grandpa Reed.
Mm-hmm.
The first time when you went to the hospital and you looked at this little girl, how close was she to the description that Grandpa Reed said?
I had no idea it wasn't in my mind. I didn't realize that it was the same girl that he was talking about until after he passed away, and we were about to adopt her. The adoption was getting finalized soon. We went to one of Grandpa Reed's granddaughter's wedding receptions. And I was thinking, oh, I'm so excited to tell them that we're going to finally adopt our little girl. And as I was thinking that, and we're standing in the reception line, I realized, oh my goodness, Grandpa Reed told me about her. And that's when it clicked. It hadn't clicked for the whole year prior that I'd had her. And then I think it's when I told Rich, I said, oh my gosh, Marla's the girl that he described.
In detail.
Just out of curiosity, does Marla have a sister?
She has a sister with straight hair, like he said.
And and she's not with you. She's with someone else. Wow.
Yep, just like he said.
Quite the story.
Yeah.
So, I've interviewed you guys before. Okay, you got a lot of miracle stories. It's like, geez, Louise. We won't get into it quite yet, but your oldest son. Actually, no, I'm gonna deviate. We're gonna go right into this. Okay. So, to me, if you don't mind me putting words into your mind and mouth, you're raised Jewish. The chances of you becoming a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints pretty slim living in a Jewish home. Okay. And then you fast forward, you meet a girl at a meeting at said church. And then you propose to her at 3:00 in the morning, dude. Wow. Okay.
With no ring.
With no ring. And then you get double checked. I mean, so it's like, okay, she's doing a fact check on you. Okay.
I will say we're going on 26 years. So something went okay.
So now you have 3 kids. Your oldest son, well, actually, we're going to go this. There's 2 miracles that Zach has personally been involved in. One was when he was 12. Tell me what happened.
You want to tell it or do you want me to tell it?
You tell them.
So when Zach was 12, Samantha was 9, Marla was 3, our family went to Hawaii to have a vacation. I was working 2 jobs. I was working the ER at Primary Children's and in my clinic as a general pediatrician in Draper, and things were busy and hectic, and we decided, hey, we need some family time away. So we booked this trip, planned it for a year, and everyone had their own desires about surfing and different things they wanted to do, hang out on the beach. I wanted to take my family on this amazing hike to this majestic waterfall, Hanakapiai Falls. Mm-hmm. Been there before twice in my life, once as a teenager, once Carrie and I didn't have a honeymoon really after we got married because I was in internship. Mm-hmm. But we had a delayed honeymoon when Zach was 1. We went there and I did that hike and I loved it. And I thought, I want to bring my whole family there.
Yeah.
Marla was 3. She barely learned to walk. So we knew she couldn't do this 8-mile round trip hike over rocks and stuff. So she was in a backpack on my back and so most of the day hike, everyone was anxious to get there and relax and eat a picnic and swim under the waterfall. And so we're just a couple minutes away. You have to cross the stream really a few times. Mm-hmm. Cross the stream the last time, we make it to almost the waterfall and realize something's changed, like a light switch went on, the storm's coming in. Mm. So you're in a canyon, I know from living in Utah, you got to get out of there if the storm's coming in. We turn around and we walk back to the stream that we just crossed maybe 10, 12 minutes earlier. And as we're crossing the stream, Marla's in the backpack on my back in a backpack carrier. I'm holding my daughter Samantha's hand. She's holding Zachary's hand. We're walking in a line. Carrie and our family friend Steve are a little bit behind us. We're walking across the stream, and about 2/3 of the way across the stream, I see it on my corner of my eye, Zach, what I thought was slipped. And so I let go of my daughter's hand to naturally just reach to try and help him up and realize that he's now been swept away by a current. And now with my back to the water, Marla, who's on my back as a 3-year-old girl with developmental delay, is now pushed with me into this huge, raging flash flood of a river. And so all 3 of us were in a fight for our lives. Thank God that Samantha, my 9-year-old, and Carrie did not get swept in, or my friend Steve. They made it across safely to the other side of the trail. And it's a whole miracle story that we've written a book about called Surviving a Miracle, and we hope to make into a movie about how we all were rescued. It involved literal angels. It involved many both heavenly angels and earthly angels. People came to our rescue, people in the right place at the right time with the right equipment. My son ended up miraculously on the other side of the river on a little ledge. He had to wait there 5 hours. A helicopter came in. It's a whole long story, Doug, that we've talked about before, but it's an amazing story of miracles and of love and of service and the goodness of people. And we're just blessed to be alive.
Well, there's one thing that you mentioned that I didn't catch in the last interview. So Marla is on your back, right?
On my back.
Okay. In a backpack.
Not
Okay.
strapped in.
Oh, shiz. Okay. But here's the thing. I mean, naturally, if you fall backwards.
I was underwater
Yeah.
most of the time, and I knew what that meant for my daughters. Yeah. Immediately when we were thrown or violently shoved in by the current, she cried, then she screamed, and then a couple seconds later, there was only silence.
Oh, geez.
And I was like this on my back, mostly covered, and I knew what that meant, that she was underwater and couldn't breathe. And that was a terrifying moment as a parent.
Yeah. Well, wow. So.
But thank God, literally, we're all alive and made it out.
Okay. Now I'm going to fast forward. Yeah, Zach's, instead of 12, he's about 18-ish.
18.
Okay. Now, this kid has got a really cool future. He has, he's going to be going on a mission. He's going to, got all this college stuff. I mean, life is good. But then something happened.
So I'm biased because Zach is one of my children, but I've been around a lot of smart people in my life, Doug. Raised in a family of doctors. Both my parents are physicians. Around a lot of smart people growing up and met hundreds, if not thousands, of other physicians. Zach was probably, at that point, one of the brightest minds I had ever met. And so brilliant. And graduated with a 4.0 from the IB program at Skyline. Accepted to study at Georgia Tech, number 3 school in the nation at the time for mechanical engineering, which is what he loved, that and robotics.
Okay.
So he had a very bright future. And he had also received a call and accepted a call to serve a mission right after high school in Antofagasta, Chile. And this was May of 2020. So COVID had just started recently. And 4 days after graduation, there wasn't much of a graduation. It was kind of a car procession.
Yeah, I remember.
It.
Kind of sad.
And he was out celebrating at the Salt Flats with his friends. No bad things were happening, no drinking, just lots of fun. They had bonfire. They were making s'mores, 30 of them or so. A huge group of guys and girls just celebrating, having fun. And a couple of Zach's friends were talking with Zach, and they said, hey, let's go drive around and goof around, drive off fast around the Salt Flats. And so Zach volunteered to drive because his car was closer. And so the 3 of them were driving around the Salt Flats fast at night. And far out in the Salt Flats, there's a wall that's probably 10 to 12 feet tall that's really hard to see during the day and invisible almost at night. And they crashed full speed without braking going into that wall.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Carrie?
Yeah.
I don't want to put too much pressure on Mom, but what was that phone call like?
That phone call was hell.
Yeah.
So I got a call from one of the other boys' moms, and I knew this boy very well because they were very good friends all through junior high and high school.
But didn't know the mom.
But I did not know the mom. Our families hadn't gone together. And so this is the first time she's calling me, and she found my number in an old junior high phone book.
Whoa.
And later found out that a bystander who witnessed the boys crash was able to pull 2 of the boys out. Zach was not able to get pulled out, but got a phone number of one of the boys' moms, and that's how she was able to get in touch with me. Rich was out driving with Samantha, practice driving with Samantha at the time, so I had called him, and he knew right away from my voice that something was wrong. And
I was teaching Samantha how to drive. She was 15 with her permit. And I answered the phone and said, I got to call you back. We're going to change lanes soon. And Carrie said, no. And I said, I knew exactly. And I knew Zach was out at the salt flats, and I knew exactly what had happened. I was like, it's Zach and something serious. And she said, yes.
So what was the journey? Because how's Zach doing now?
So it's a whole long miracle story. He had a severe traumatic brain injury. He was in the hospital in the ICU for almost 3 weeks, not expected to live or even have any function. Made it out of the ICU in under 3 weeks, made it to the rehab at about the 3-week mark, was told he'd be there for a month rehabbing. And at 3 weeks, where they tried to come out at 2 weeks, but we wouldn't let him. At 3 weeks, they kicked him out because he was making too good of progress, literally.
Yeah.
And he, a short time before we got discharged with one of his therapists, a speech therapist, who was trying to teach him to multitask and read and different stuff. So we walked from the rehab hospital, which is connected to the University of Utah, back to the ICU. It happened. Her sister was one of the ICU nurses who took care of Zach. So Zach and I walked with this therapist over to the ICU, and she called her sister, like, hey, come out and say, hi, I'm here. She came out, and she was just talking to her sister for 2 or 3 minutes, and she looks up at me, and she goes, what are you doing here? You're Zach's father. And I go, yeah, I'm here with Zach. Zach was standing there the whole time. She didn't recognize him. She said, Zach, is that you? She goes, that can't be Zach. I've never seen something like this. And Zach's like, yeah, I'm Zach. He didn't know who she was because he didn't remember that. And she was crying and hugging him. She said, I've never seen a recovery like that. We don't expect someone to walk and talk shortly after that. It was a total miracle. Many people around the world prayed. My sister started a Instagram page, Miracle for Zach. We got thousands and thousands of people across the world. Friends, told family, told friends. We got messages, Doug, of people we don't know from dozens of countries. We've never prayed before. We don't believe in God. We haven't prayed in 20 years. We're praying for Zach. Yeah, we have faith for Zach. And so Zach made a miraculous, amazing recovery. Still, to this day, suffers some effects of his traumatic brain injury, but he's able to serve a full-time mission. It was COVID. He served 8 months in Washington, D.C., and then 14 months in Antofagasta, Chile, because COVID didn't allow Chile to be open.
Oh, I remember that. Yep.
Then he went to Georgia Tech. He's studying at Georgia Tech. He's in his 3rd year. Last semester, the poor thing got his first B. He's got almost 4.0. So he's done amazingly well. We are so blessed. Another gift from God, a true
Still the engineering stuff?
Still mechanical engineering, robotics. He's currently in Madrid, Spain, doing a semester abroad. He's interesting. After his Hawaii experience of getting up miraculously onto that little shelf, he became a rock climber, was a competitive rock climber, competed all over the nation in high school. So he's an amazing young man, really dedicated. He had to work his butt off to get, for a year to rehab and to get back to where he is, but it's an absolute miracle.
Has he written a book yet? Because I'm serious. This kid needs to be a motivational speaker.
His story is my next on my list.
I'm just saying, boy.
And maybe Zach loves math and science. Writing is his least favorite part. He won't be writing a book anytime soon, but
that's why you're to transcribe it for. Okay, yeah. It's books on video or something. But okay, so let's talk. And I'm going to pick on Mom again. Okay, so let's talk about Sam. So what's Sam up to?
Well, Samantha is studying architecture at Syracuse University.
No way.
Here.
Really? Wow.
Loves it.
Good job, girl. That's a tough school to get into.
It is a tough school, but it's got some perks. She's had the opportunity with her architecture program to do study abroad twice.
Wow.
Last spring, she was in Italy. This fall, she's in London. And she's enjoying traveling currently.
Oh, yeah.
In Romania.
I mean, you think Italy might just have just a little bit of architecture, It's just like, wow. Your family has all kinds of interesting skills. And I understand that Samantha is a dancer, but in a different, interesting thing that people might not have heard about.
She likes aerial silks. All kinds of dancing, but aerial silks is...
Okay, and she does not have a fear of heights?
It doesn't seem to be.
Oh, man.
Does.
I know, exactly. As I was going, oh my gosh, don't look, Dad. It's like...
She does aerial silks, and my son's a rock climber.
Okay, yeah.
He's definitely afraid of heights.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Wow, okay. God, the insurance on these kids, I'm just saying. Wow. Okay. Now, I realize this one's an interesting one because Marla, okay, she's your little miracle baby. Okay, so you got a whole bunch of miracles, but you got a miracle baby. And because of, and I'm kind of fast forwarding just a little, okay? And you and I kind of got a little emotional at the last interview, so it might happen again, just forewarning, okay? I love the fact that you are basically, forget a glass, you're making a bucket of lemons into lemonade. And there's this program called the Pediatric Feeding Symposium that you guys have been doing for what, 6 years or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh my gosh. And as your husband said, okay, I'm going to borrow one of his lines. Okay, normal people don't do that. Okay, what is his Pediatric Feeding Symposium for the people watching?
So the Pediatric Feeding Symposium is a conference for children, for people who help children with pediatric feeding disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Pediatric feeding disorders can range from a variety of things, from dysphagia, cleft palate, feeding tubes.
So essentially, kids who are unable to eat at all
Mm-hmm.
orally and are too fed, or who are only able to eat a small amount of their calories and then need supplementation for a variety of medical and social reasons, like carrying.
Right now, and I want to make sure I get this fact right, because I was actually bragging about you guys today to somebody. It's just like, okay, you got this couple is doing this school thing. And it says, okay, now here's the thing. This pediatric feeding thing is totally different than an eating disorder. But the thing that people might not realize is the percentage of kids that have this.
3% of children in the first 5 years of life have some type of feeding disorder. And there's a wide variety. That's like any number. That's huge. 20 times greater than Down syndrome. And pretty much everyone in the world has heard of things like Down syndrome, but almost no one knows about something like a pediatric feeding disorder, unless, of course, you have a family member that's been with it.
And the thing that I look at is, okay, you're a pediatric doctor. You're a super mom. Again, I'm feeling a theme with your family, because on the one hand, never ignore prompting, okay? And then you also are basically the walking, talking miracle family. It makes me wonder, it's not a question, okay? It's more of a statement. It makes me wonder if the reason that Marla was placed into your family through God is because you're not just helping one kid. You're giving hope to hundreds, if not thousands, of kids and their parents and their doctors, because it's like, that just blows my mind. Because, I mean, when I told this person, that I met with today, 3%, they go, you got to be kidding. That's huge. We're talking a lot of people. And as a pediatrician, you were telling me this is not in the normal course of curriculum for doctors to learn about.
It's not. And let me answer your non-question.
You know what I'm saying?
People said many times to me, especially when Marla was younger, she is so lucky to have been placed in a family with a dad who is a pediatrician and a pediatric ER specialist. How blessed she is.
Yeah.
And my reply to them is, how wrong you are. She is lucky because she was placed in a family with an amazing mother. Because her mother is the one who was doing all of the feeding therapy, who was doing all of that care while I was working to try and provide for the family and busy working 2 jobs for many of those early years. And I told them, that's why she's lucky, is she has an amazing mom. Mm-hmm. Marla, it took us 7.5 years to help her learn how to eat orally. She had a tube in her nose, then she had a more permanent tube in her stomach. And so she received 100% of her calories and everything. And so we used every resource in Utah. We actually went to California for 3 weeks. She was admitted to a hospital there for specialty training there. That didn't really work hardly at all. We went to Arizona to meet with a specialist there. So we used so many resources and so much time and energy. And 7.5 years later, she finally was eating almost everything by mouth. But the journey was hell. There was so many tears cried at dinner and so much frustration and heartache and guilt on a great mom's part. Like, why can't I feed my child? Why can't I provide for my child? Which was just being a good mom, not the truth. And then Carrie said, we finally figured out how to help Marla. There's not enough resources in Utah, and the resources here in Utah aren't connected. We need to find a way to help people navigate this so they don't have to go through the hell we went through. I said, okay, what do you mean? She said, we need to put on a conference and bring specialists in from different parts of the country to educate people here in Utah who have these kids with these problems, who are crying just like we were crying and frustrated and lost, and their therapists and physicians and all these people don't necessarily all are connected with the resources and how to really care for this issue. She said, I want to start a conference here. And I laughed and I said, you want to start a medical conference? You're a mom with a special needs child with a landscape architecture degree. I said, a hospital hires a team. They have a main person with 5 or 6 other people who their part or full-time job is to put on that medical conference. I said, individuals don't put on medical conferences. Moms with a non-medical degree don't put on medical conferences. They cost a lot of money. They're a huge time sink. There's all kinds of logistics. You have to worry about getting continuing education, renting a place, food, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Her first year, she pretty much said to me, well, be on board or not, we're moving forward. So she actually had a huge conference the first year and now has done it over the last 8 years, 6 times. We took a break in COVID and some other stuff. But so last month was her 6th time putting on the conference, and already number 7 is in the work for 2026. So that's what the coming about. She wanted people who went through this difficulty with their child not to have that same level of difficulties, to feel support, to feel hope, to feel love, to know that there's other people out there who understand what's going on. It's still hell to this day. I still try to convince her not to do it because it's so much work on our family. And she keeps doing it and does an amazing job of it. And that's why Marla is blessed and has made so much progress.
Okay, I will grant you that. And I'm also going to counter you on one thing. Okay. This woman was trained as a landscape architect. Okay. So, Miss Landscaper, may I say, hang on, I'm going to play with you on this one.
All right.
I would counter. You have planted an orchard.
Thank you.
Okay. And the thing is, if an orchard is tended to, what does it do?
It grows. And the feeding community here, I feel like, has been growing together.
Yeah, and it bears fruit.
More and more resources coming together at this conference every year. And there are more programs available now than there had been, not because of us, but maybe some awareness helped with that. I don't know.
Okay.
But there are more resources here than there were 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, okay. You may or may not hear the story because I'm a lot older than you guys. But, I grew up with the story of Johnny Appleseed, okay? And this guy that's planting apples all along the trail, okay? The thing that's interesting, one of my favorite gardening quotes is from Katharine Hepburn. She says, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Because the reality is when you plant a tree, a lot of the time, you're never it's going to be out of our lifetime before this thing goes to its full maturity. Yet that is something that lasts, and it's a legacy. So well done on the orchard, my plant person. See? Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, so tell me about Marla. How's she doing? How old is she now?
She's 15. She is one of the most joyful people you would ever meet. She loves to give hugs.
Oh, hey, I'm a hugger. Okay.
She won the award for best hugger at school.
Love it. Okay. What are some of her favorite things to do?
Marla loves swinging at the park is probably her favorite thing in the world. Maybe second would be music and swimming.
Okay.
She loves when we go on trips. She loves to travel. She loves to fly. She loves to go different places. She more likes going to some place rather than the actual process.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't we all? But it's like, yeah.
And as we're sitting there waiting for the plane to take off, she'll say, land? And I said, well, we have a few hours before our coffee yet. But when she watches TV or plays some game and she does okay. And I think one of the funniest things about Marla, just because of her eating style and such, she, for whatever reason, wouldn't drink very much. But she, all of a sudden, several years ago, started wanting to drink from a water bottle, like a regular plastic bottle. That's 99% of the time how she gets her fluids orally. She'll only drink, rarely from a cup. She'll drink milk or juice occasionally, but really she just only wants it from a water bottle. And she calls them her cold ones.
Now, admittedly, I have to tease you there.
People,
I know.
people call cold ones different. I'm just you and I refer to it as a beer. Like Lala says, I want a cold one, please. She's referring to a water bottle.
I know, but I'm just thinking, I know you're LDS, but I'm just saying, man, you could get quite a sponsorship from Budweiser. I'm just saying. Okay. She could do it. Have them be a sponsor of this symposium. Just saying,
There's an idea. We're calling. Hey, a contact. Let us.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So, you've had quite the life, and life is never boring for you guys. So, the other thing that I love is everybody loves a great love story. Okay. And I see the pictures of your grandparents and their wedding picture. Okay. And then, going down the generations and the fact that, well, and you'll know exactly, some people out there won't understand what I'm going to say now, but you understand. I want you to hear this because this is what you, me, and your Nana, okay? May her memory be for a blessing. You have, by naming your children, blessed your children to be able to pass down their heritage. And that's the whole mission of my show, is to make sure that people remember where they came from, because if those stories aren't passed down, people are lost and forgotten. The other thing that I look at is, besides a love story, is yours also is very much a story of faith. So, okay, I'm wondering what your parents thought. It's like, okay, I'm bringing home a Jewish boy, but no, well, but he's converted. It's okay. What does, and she gets to answer first, and I'll give you the last word. Okay.
Fine.
Okay. What does your faith mean to you?
Everything. Just the knowledge that we have a loving Heavenly Father who is there for us in hard times as well as great times. This plan of salvation that He has blessed us with to be able to grow with families and to be able to come back to a heavenly family after this life means everything. And the opportunity we have to be eternal families. I'm a strong believer that some of the most important things in life are the things that God has given us. And that is free agency, love, and the opportunities and time that He gives us to grow and hopefully grow together.
See, the reason I let her go first is because she got all the great answers. Okay, now you got to figure something out different. Okay, but Rich, last words.
I'll say ditto to her.
Okay, that works.
But, after we adopted Marla, so Carrie and I were married and sealed in the Bountiful Temple. And then after we adopted Marla, we had the amazing blessing to take our whole family, Zachary, Samantha, and Marla, back to the Bountiful Temple to be sealed together as a family. And, for people who don't know what that means, is we believe in our religion of Latter-day Saints that means we're all connected together eternally as a family to be in heaven together. And, like Carrie said, our faith is everything. We're far from perfect. We make plenty of mistakes in our family, Doug. There's plenty of arguing or yelling that happens on a regular basis in lives.
Really?
Yes, Billy. Trust me. Yeah, or else half my kid.
Yeah.
But I will say, we believe in God. We believe that God loves us, and I can't fathom how our family would have gotten through the trials we've gone through without a belief in God, without our Savior, and without his redeeming love and the love of so many people who, through our community, our family, our friends, our loved ones, who bring that love of God, no matter what religion you are. God is God, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, LDS, doesn't matter what you are. God is God, and God loves us. And our family's been through a lot of hard trials, but our family has had so many blessings, and blessings that have come out even of the hard parts of those trials. And so I believe that our faith is everything. We're far from perfect, but we have been immensely blessed. And how we've gotten through those hard moments is to lean on our faith, both in that very moment of drowning in the river, or when your son is in ICU, hanging on for his life, and you're begging God. Just feeling that love through other people and through him is how we were able to literally survive and get through it. And so, to me, it is absolutely everything. It is so important. And we try and teach our kids, no matter what you do in life, no matter what religion you choose to be, no matter how you live your life, we've tried to impress upon them the role and effect God has had. In fact, when we got rescued as a whole family in Hawaii, we made it back to our car. And when everyone was buckled in and safe before we drove away, I turned to the kids, and before we had a prayer to thank God, I said, I want you to recognize what happened today. You're all exhausted. It's late. We've been going at this for most of the day. I can't imagine how everyone's feeling. But before we drive away from here, I need you to know that the only reason any of us are alive, let alone all of us are alive, is because God literally orchestrated a miracle on our behalf. And I wanted them to be crystal clear that it was no coincidence that numerous things came to pass. And that's the same way that it's happened through all of these crazy stories we've been through, is that God is there holding our hand, lifting us up, loving us. And so we are very, very blessed to have the knowledge of God and our Savior and what it means to our family, and how that, as Carrie mentioned, how that blesses us as a family, that we can get through together hard times. So we feel really blessed.
Life would be a lot harder without our faith, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well said. With another episode of Family Heritage Stories and the Greenbergs, I'm Doug Jessup. Shalom and Amen.